Almost everybody knows of this game called Animal Crossing New Leaf. When it came out, it was the biggest thing. I love the game with all my heart, and every now and then I go through an obsessive phase where I can't stop playing and talking about the game. Usually when I play, I'm way into the future, but in my New Leaf game, I tried to keep as close as I could to the date it was that day, but I always loved to skip ahead if I had nothing better to do. Like if Nook's shop had nothing in it, or all of the outfits in the Able Sisters were horrid and disgusting. After staying away from the game for almost a month, and recently turning it on, the game had been on October 1st, 2014. I was so excited because I skipped past the Halloween event in 2013 to get to my birthday, which was January 26th. Every day I bought spooky furniture and candy for myself and other villagers. As I was skipping days though, I talked to all my villagers, but as it got closer to Halloween, they started to tell me they had too much on their minds, or they didn't feel like talking to me. It was maybe 3 days before Halloween, and I had absolutely nothing to do. TIY had no spooky furniture, and I already filled up a whole part of my closet with candy, so I'd have enough to give quite a few to the villagers I actually liked, but nobody was talking to me. I skipped to Halloween because it had become so boring that I didn't want to sit around, selling seashells and watering plants. When my character, Roxy, left her mermaid-themed house, she was still in her regular clothes. So I put her in a wolf mask, custom gray shirt, and the basic gray skirt with the fishnet tights, and my shoes which have randomly become patched, although I think that was normal for them to become patched over a long time. My costume that I chose was a stereotypical white girl wolf. I didn't get that you had to scare your townfolk. As I sat there waiting for Isabel's message to pop up about Halloween, I realized it was taking too long for one to pop up. So I brushed it off and started to listen to music. The music in Animal Crossing was always my favorite part of the game. It was always cheerful and cute, and it made you want to play for hours. But when I was listening to the music outside, it was more sad than cheery, and more demonic. As I ran around, I noticed that nobody was in their costumes, and they were all very sad looking. I went looking around for my favorite Animal Crossing villager, Benjamin, and found him near his house. When I talked to him, the things he was saying to me were normal, like, "YOLO, yo Roxy, what can I do for you?" But his voice was very low, not like his normal voice, and his facial expressions were depressing. I went around looking for Jack to give him candy, but he was nowhere to be seen. So I went back into my house and decided to move some furniture around. When I went into my house, I couldn't stop hearing this sound, like footsteps dancing on the ceiling. I then noticed the song in my main room didn't loop and completely stopped once it got to the end. That footstep noise got very eerie and annoying very quick, so I decided to go upstairs to my mermaid-themed room. When I got there, I was terrified. Gruesome wallpaper was put up. It looked like blood was splattered on it, and it was falling apart, and it was a revolting gray color that did not match the floor. The floor was a greenish color that had more of a carpety feel to it, not to mention there was blood on that too. In the middle of the room, there was Jack, and in the background, Hypno KK was playing, and around him were the bodies of the villagers. Confused, I walked up to him and pressed A. When I did, screaming came out of my game, and it wouldn't stop. I quickly turned down the volume and smashed the A button until a message popped up. It was the message from Isabel that I was supposed to get when I entered the game, except it wasn't really what I'd expect from Isabel. What the message said was, "Jack can eat all of you raw. Jack is a puppet who works on his own. He makes you fall and breaks your jaw and makes your legs not have a bone." I wondered what kind of a kindergartner came up with that, because that was the worst rhyming I have ever seen. Then, just as the message left, the game did an exit sequence, and when it did, the opening, it took me to the museum, but more like in an exhibit. I went through looking at all the statues, but soon they were all turning into villagers. I looked through each of them, looking at the ones I used to have live in my town, or in my town in my other Animal Crossing games. I was so sad to see all of them look lifeless and pale. They all looked like zombies, just standing on little slabs with name slates on them. But one of the things that I didn't want to see was there. My favorite villager, Benjamin. He wasn't a statue. He was laying on the floor, and it looked like he had broken all of his bones. Then my villagers started to move behind a statue without me touching the move buttons. Then the camera panned up to see an entrance up by Benjamin's limp body, and Jack came out and picked him up and started to eat his intestines. It was so disgusting, and I wanted to cry. Benjamin has been my best friend since he moved to my town, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then Jack pulled out needles and thread, stuffing, and I saw him as he cut him up, as he sewed him back together with his utensils. He stuffed him, and he put him up in a place where a new plush was to go. Then the camera panned back to my character, behind one of the villagers. But then behind my player was Isabel, and she began to stab Roxy, my character, with a knife, and took all my clothes. I was crying. I didn't want to see what I had just witnessed. The screen then faded to black, and it took me to the regular start screen. When I pressed A, it took me to the player selection, and Isabel told me the date. The date passed to a month later, and I was confused as to why. When I decided to go with it, Isabel said, "Finally, you're back. I've been trying my best to fill your shoes." And my 3DS turned off completely.